Few of us would deny that people differ on broad traits of personality. For example, some people are more extroverted, others less so. But psychologists like Rodolfo Mendoza Denton say there's another level at which we can analyze personality. It's known as the person in the situation model.
Hello, class. I'm going to hand the exams back today.
For example, in a classroom situation, one student may be shy around her professor, but in a situation with her peers,
the bonfire last year, the flames were so high and it was extremely hot in there. You could not even, you could almost feel your clothes were like melting, like trying to shit.
She's very outgoing and friendly.
So if she's friendly with her peers but not with professors, we know a little bit about her psychology. What is driving and motivating her behavior? Now you think about an alternative pattern, someone who's very friendly to professors but not at all to peers. You've got a completely different pattern, even though the average level of behavior is the same.
Each person is different. Each has his or her own unique pattern.
It depends on the situation. I'm much more of an introvert in unfamiliar situations than in familiar ones.
Psychologists think of these patterns almost like personality signatures, and the signatures can be described using what's called an if-then contingency. It's simple. For example, if it's a classroom, then he's funny. But if it's a social setting, then he's quiet.
And it turns out that these patterns of behavior, these if-then signatures is what we call them, they are stable over time and across situations. So if a person is friendly in one situation and unfriendly in the other, they tend to repeat that pattern over time. So this is not randomness in their behavior. It really seems to signify something about their personality.
Mendoza Denton says in contrast to if-then signatures, traditional theories of personality provide a global description of personality. Someone described as friendly is assumed to be friendly across the board. Such global descriptions are useful.
But I think that if you want to understand what is motivating a person, what is driving their behavior, what kinds of cognitions and feelings are really behind a particular set of behavior, you want to look at that if-then signature.
You can see examples of if-then signatures and global responding when students react to everyday experiences like getting a poor grade on a test. For some students, a poor grade results in a more global reaction.
I feel like a failure.
Some people really are likely to think about themselves in global terms. And it has been shown that when you have this particular tendency, you are likely to experience extremes in emotion.
I spent a couple days down in the dumps.
And it's not only in the times when you fail, but also in times of success.
Great job, Francis.
And I think it has clinical implications in not only depression, but of euphoria.
But other test takers who do poorly respond less emotionally. Rather than a global response, they have a more compartmentalized response.
I feel like I should have done better and that maybe I should have studied more.
And what theoretically that should do is it should limit the impact.
In the sports world, athletes are taught to limit the emotional impact when they're encouraged not to get too high or too low after a game. And here in the laboratory, emotional impact is examined. Participants are prompted via an audio tape.
Hello, and welcome to this study.
This study is looking at the relationship between language and emotion. First, subjects rate their current mood on this continuum of faces. Next, they're prompted to imagine several school-related emotional events, such as a test grade, a class presentation, or a social interaction. Some subjects are prompted to imagine events with good outcomes, others only events with negative outcomes. The audio tape gets Tim in the mood to imagine a class presentation that isn't going well.
As you begin your speech, you realize that your palms are sweating and that your mouth is dry.
So what I wanted to talk to you about today are these things called Lewis dot structures. I'm sorry, it's hard to explain.
Afterwards, subjects are given one of two types of short sentences to complete. This sentence, I am a, is considered a global prompt. As subjects fill in the blank, it should raise their level of affect. And it does. Later on the face test, they show significant changes in affect. But this sentence, I am a when, is a type of if-then contingency, and this contingency should compartmentalize their affect. And that's exactly what happens as these subjects show smaller changes on the face test. They're better at regulating their emotions. And ultimately, the goal of research like this is to teach people how to regulate emotion.
I think once we know what it is that we can do to minimize the affective or the emotional impact of events, we can all use these strategies and this knowledge.